Hello, everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile for Women. And this initiative was founded with the premise that women can come together, empower each other, support each other, help each other, enable each other, and they can form a stronger community together. And the power and enablement lies just within that group. And that group we call Spirals are getting founded across the world right now. All we need are leaders who believe in themselves and can lead a group of people. And as part of our initiative, we started a platform called LIA100. And this is an effort to bring the stories of 100 women, among many women, many amazing women out there. We are bringing the stories of 100 women to kind of inspire us, motivate us, and help us believe that if these women can do it, we can as well. And initially, when we launched this initiative, we asked for the communities to nominate the names of women they know, and the response was just beyond overwhelming. And we curated the list. We are still curating the list. And here we are today with our very special guest, Sandy Mamoli, and she's from New Zealand. She's from Auckland, and she's just an amazing contributor to the community. And I will introduce her really briefly, and then we'll dive right in. Thanks, Sandy, for joining us today.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so a little about Sandy. So she's one of New Zealand's leading Agile coaches, and she is an accomplished presenter. She published a book. She's also a former Olympic athlete, which just blew my mind. She's a force of positive energy, especially for those who know her. They can endorse this very affirmatively. Sandy is hands-on, no nonsense, and steeped in Agile. She's the co-author of Creating Great Teams, How Self-Selection Lets People Excel. And Sandy is an international keynote speaker. She specializes in high-performance teams. She has a master's degree in artificial intelligence. Again, another huge aha moment for me when I learned about this. She's the founder of Nomad 8, a small but perfectly formed Agile consultancy in Auckland, New Zealand, where she lives. Warm welcome again, Sandy. Welcome to LIA100.
Thank you.
All right, so something that really intrigued me. Tell me how you transitioned from being an Olympian. I just learned that that's what Olympics participants are called, from Olympian to an Agile coach and an author and a speaker. How did that journey happen?
It didn't happen within 5 minutes, but still, as an Olympic athlete, I realized that at some point I needed to grow up and get a job and have something interesting to do. And I think during my career as an athlete, I've seen too many people not thinking about the future and turning 35 or 37 or whatever the age is where people normally stop, and finding themselves with no education and starting to serve pizza somewhere. Yeah. And serving pizza is great if that's what you want to do, but it's not what they wanted to do. So I realized quite early on that at some point I needed to stop, get education, and do something else. So stopped playing handball at about age 25, and then did my master's degree until I was almost 30. I did natural language processing, which is a subfield of artificial intelligence. It's super interesting, but kind of useless. And because it was around the year 2000, I could start and it was the .com boom. I managed to start as a developer and database administrator. Did that for about 10 years, and then I moved to New Zealand. And what I found out, I was living in Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and Stockholm. And then what I found out was that I had happened to be in this really fortunate bubble where I had been working Agile since 2003. And I thought it was normal. I thought everyone was doing it. And moving to New Zealand was a switch of context. And I realized, oh, I've been living in a bubble. And I also realized I don't want to go back to the old ways of working. So I started basically creating my own world. And I started with helping teams and creating small bubbles within organizations, and crashed into the boundaries of the organization and realized, oh, if I want to work like this, I actually need to widen this bubble or this pocket. And nowadays, my pockets are the size of entire companies. And I basically learned by doing, because I was there very early on, and have learned from lots of people in the field, both men and women. And actually, two of the most influential people for me were two women. Like I found Esther Derby really influential, and also Diana Larson has influenced my development as a coach a lot. And then Lisa Atkins, who actually gave what we were doing all this time a name, that it was agile coaching and it was actually a thing and not just something we did.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And two of the women that you just mentioned, we brought, their interviews on LIA100 as well, Diana Larson and Lisa Atkins. So again, this is the power of the community, right?
Yes.
We are for each other. And I love that metaphor that you shared, the bubble, and how you expanded the bubble, right? And I think you had all the, I would say, the energy and the ability to expand it.
Yes, which was, but there's a certain degree of luck, and I'll admit that.
Sure.
And I think there's also a certain degree of not having to be fearful.
Right.
I don't know what I'm doing, but nobody else knows what they're doing either. So we might as well make my mistakes. And what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. So you had that bandwidth, or that I would say the leeway.
Yes.
Kind of growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that's amazing that you had that opportunity.
Yes.
Oh.
I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, Sandy, you are the co-author of the book called Creating Great Teams, How Self-Selection Lets People Excel. So tell us why this topic of self-selection of teams so important to you. Did something inspire you to write that book on that particular focused topic?
I didn't start out wanting to write a book. It was, I did something and then realized other people could be interested. So if you go back to about 2013, late 2012, 2013, and I was working with an e-commerce company in New Zealand, and we were introducing Agile. And I had started with the first 4 or 5 teams, and that worked really, really well. People loved it. And all of a sudden, everyone else wanted to do this too. I wanted to get into teams. And so if we do this slow and controlled, we're going to lose people. So we need to get into teams, and decided we can do this really, really fast. And we started moving people around who should go where. And it was really hard. It was like completely mind blowing. And we got it wrong all the time. And then at some point we realized, what the hell are we doing? Like, why are we deciding who gets into which team?
Right.
We've just had a hackathon, and we watched people get into small cross-functional teams to get something done, even if it's only 24 hours, but people managed that perfectly well. Nobody put themselves on many teams. Nobody was worried about utilization or anything like that. So we thought, why couldn't it be hackathon every day?
Wow.
And then realized we don't want to have 24-hour sprints, but could we find a way so that people could decide which team they want to be in? And could we take this like big problem of, as a company, we need to have 14 teams, and ask people to come up with a solution rather than us coming up with a solution. And we pulled that through. It worked really, really well. And then we blogged about it. And we realized nobody had either done it before or had published anything about it. So there was no sharing of information of how this could be done. And that's when we decided, hey, we need to write a book so we can basically write the manual for other people. So everyone can do that, because I really firmly believe that everyone should have the power to decide which team they work in.
Wow. And was it received well by your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually not that hard for an organization, because it's not irreversible. Like, say, if you try it as an organization and it really doesn't work,
You can
you
always
can always go back.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's more important that the organization is flexible enough to try it, right?
Yeah.
I think the problem is with the apprehension and not even
Yes.
taking that step. So I commend you and your organization for taking that step, with an open mind. I think that's the growth mindset we're talking about, right? That we are coaching on.
Yes, exactly. To try something out. We don't know if it's going to work, but
Yeah.
We learn something.
Right. Fail fast, right? If it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Fail fast, and also don't fail catastrophically. Like, we
Right.
didn't put the existence of the company on the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we failed, we knew there was a plan B.
Right. Yeah. So also, Sandy, you wrote this book. You co-authored this book, and authoring a book is about expression, right? You're sharing something. You're putting something out there in the world that, hey, I know this content. I'm sharing it with you. And I often see, especially in women, because we have these spirals and we have these cohorts of women coming together. I always hear that, women have, a lot of ideas, concepts, or, they would like to express something. So let alone authoring book, they're even apprehensive to write a blog or a post on LinkedIn, right? They're very, very apprehensive. They doubt themselves, and they're intimidated. They have this imposter syndrome. And tell us, what was the journey of writing a book like? And I want everybody to hear this, so they can draw the inspiration from you.
I hope they can. But first, I want to talk a bit about the imposter syndrome and the reluctance to share something. And what I've realized at some stage was that, seriously, nobody knows exactly what they're doing. If we do the same things again and again, it is actually boring. So anything interesting anyone does, they don't know what they're doing. And that's both men and women. And as soon as someone claims they do, if someone is overconfident, they're probably horribly wrong and have nothing to base this confidence on. So my experience is, people who are really, really good at something, they push themselves all the time. They doubt themselves all the time. They have fear. They just do it anyway. And I think that's a key point for me. And writing a book, of course, there was fear, but not so much the fear of how it was going to be received, because worst case, nobody reads it. It's not the end of the world. But to come back to your original question about the journey of writing a book. So what was really, really good for us, I wrote this together with my friend David Mole, and what was really good for us was to get a publisher, because a publisher for us provided an editor who provided coaching, because we had no idea how to write a book. And we approached Pragmatic Bookshelf, and they immediately said yes. They are quite open, so if anyone has ideas, they're really happy to take people on and coach them. So we received coaching, we got help to write this book, and it then got published. Took us about a year to do that. And what's way worse about writing a book than the fear about how it's going to be received, it's a giga-enormous amount of work.
I'm sure.
You think you're 80% there in the writing, but then you've got the 20%, and that's like 90% of the time still left.
It's like 90% done, 90% to be done.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. it's a really good example of that.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I think you were being very honest, and I love your vulnerability when you said, all of us have the fear. You feel the fear, but do it anyway. One of our other, LIA100 women said the same thing. She said, feel the fear, that's fine, but do it anyway. And I think that's the power right there. Thank you so much. I think that is something that I can take away from what you just said, right? And it's okay, you don't have to be perfect. And worst case scenario, people don't like it, people don't read it, but you've done it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we don't need to take everything so seriously, including ourselves.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the breakthrough moments has also been Diana Larson, who has done a keynote in, I don't remember which year it was, but there's two things she did. She had the closing keynote, and she stood up there in front of 2,000 people at Agile 2000 and something. And first of all, she had at least a minute of her just dancing by herself in front of 2,000 people. And I loved it because I thought it was amazing for her to put herself out there and then standing up and declaring to a room of 2,000 geeks that they should take responsibility for their own career. And basically, if they didn't like what they were doing, there were no bars in front of their windows. So they should just take ownership and change that. And I thought that was amazing. It has inspired me. And it's something that has helped me, or has made it for me, or made for me, that I want to do or give back to other people what that has done to me.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for mentioning what Diana has done and reminded us that if you don't love something that you're doing, there are other options out there. And I think all of us need to remind ourselves of that very often, because we have our own barriers kind of preventing that, right? And
yes.
And speaking of which, at Lean and Agile, we talk quite a bit about barriers, self barriers, right? Internal barriers. And I think, especially women, we create our own barriers, and we live in those barriers, and we let those barriers impede our acceleration to do anything, right? To express ourselves, or take that next step in your job, or to find another job, whatever. And I'm assuming that you had some internal barriers as well while you were transitioning from being an Olympian to an Agilist, or writing a book, or doing these experiments with self-selection teams. How did you address those internal barriers when they popped up? How did you thrash them down, and what did you do?
That is such a great question. And I'm not just saying that because I need time to think, but I honestly think it's a good question. Yes, it's like the usual trick. It's like a great question. Go, wow. I think it's the barriers. It's the keeping an eye on the outcome, keeping an eye on the vision that I have. And the vision is to have 200 people choose which team they want to work in. The vision I have is that people all over the world get the chance to decide how they want to work, who they want to work with, and what they want to work on. The vision of introducing more humane and agile ways of working to people, that keeping an eye on that has helped me to not worry about myself that much. Going, actually, yes, I have this fear. Yes, there's a barrier. Maybe I'm a bit insecure here, but in a greater scale of things, I'm not just doing this for me. I can ignore that barrier. It becomes small if I keep an eye on the big vision, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I'm actually imagining my own vision as you're talking about it. And I was imagining my own barriers and how I can, set fast. No, that's powerful, Sandy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Right? I think so. Can I interpret that as, you have this vision, and of course, all of us have barriers, but the way, or the reason, or the rationale to overcome them is aligned to the vision, right? You have a vision, yes. You have to achieve that. so barriers should be. Okay.
Yes, and I see them as basically it's kind of a hardship that I
Yeah.
can and should overcome.
Yeah.
And there's no difference between a hardship in terms of I want to run a 10K to get into the habit of getting off the sofa or pushing myself more in a workout. And I think it's exactly the same with in order to achieve something at work, to push through the fear, go in front of those people running a workshop, even though I'm scared, getting in front of 1,900 people in Montreal presenting at a conference. It's really scary, but I know it's the right thing to do and what I want to do. And it overshadows the fear and the smaller things.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. It's a hardship that you have to endure, overcome, be persistent so you can reach the goal.
I think so.
Awesome. Now, did you ever feel like giving up? If you did, how did you come out of that thought process?
Did I ever feel like giving up? Not really. Actually,
you're an Olympian, so.
I never did, but I did run into turbulence, and I get tired sometimes, like everyone does. So I never thought about actually giving up, but more of taking a mini holiday. So I can go, oh, I'm just tired of this, and I don't want to hear about it, and I just take a week, and I don't even think about my goal or whatever I'm doing. And then I'm usually refreshed enough to think about that again.
Nice.
And I know that like going on an actual holiday every time I feel like that is not exactly possible, but just a mental holiday where I just maybe run on routine for a week and think about other things.
Yeah, no, that's cool. All of us need those vacations, right? Thank God for summers.
Oh, beach is best, but
exactly, beach is beach. I wanted to ask you a funny question. Being an athlete, right? You were an athlete. How did that help, or how was that transition coming into Agile and working with organizations? Did any part of being an athlete contribute to being a better coach?
I think all the parts did.
Awesome.
I think what you learn as an athlete, it's the perfect petri dish for learning. Like it's a whole career that you just spend learning and improving, and that entails failing a lot, trying something, it doesn't work, trying something else. So it comes very natural as an athlete. I think grit as a definition of perseverance and passion is something that you have as an athlete. And if you're lucky enough to find that somewhere else, then I think everything that got you somewhere as an athlete is also applicable in the job world. And there's another thing that I've learned is that where I want to be is a place, I know I'm in the right place when I feel both fear and excitement at the same time.
Is that what you experienced in Olympics as well? Okay, fear and excitement together.
Yes, it's like you're trying to achieve something, you really, really want it. And if you don't feel fear, it's routine, then you know you can do it. What's the point? Like, that's getting out of your comfort zone. And I think as an athlete, you do it so much that you kind of become addicted. And I learned to both love and hate it. And I'm almost addicted to doing that now.
Yeah. So that emotion of fear and excitement is what makes it worthwhile. Got it.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful comparison between the sport that you loved and you did with what you're doing right now, right? I think that's the commonality, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So as we wrap up, Sandy, is there a message you would like to share with our audience? Anything that you live by, anything that you love to say?
I think if I could give one piece of advice to all women or younger women, actually everyone out there, is to just be yourself, to not worry about fear. You can do things even though you might feel fear, as long as you feel excitement at the same time. That's all good. And don't take anything, including yourself, too seriously.
I love that. Thank you so much, Sandy. This was an amazing interview. Thank you so much for being here and sharing, your story, your background, what inspired you, and what you're contributing to our community. Very honored to have you, not just on LIA100, but also in the Agile community. Hope to see you soon.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me in this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, thank you. And I did want to ask you, and you can edit this out because it's the end, but I'm now really curious as to what your vision is.
Vision of this organization?
No, for you, because you said you started thinking about your vision while I was talking.
My personal vision. So I just started my fitness routine.
Mm-hmm.
And the outcome of this fitness routine is not to lose weight or look great, but it is to develop strength in my body. I'm an Indian classical dancer. It requires quite a bit of strength. And also, I always wanted to have a strong core. And so I recently started the routines and going through all that, and they're incredibly hard for a beginner like me. And I have this vision of losing so much weight and becoming so much stronger. And with each push-up or each squat, I keep thinking of that goal, and I'm like, every drop counts, right? Every
Yes.
drop counts. So when you talked about hardships versus vision, and these hardships are the probably a required building block, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
it just hit me. It resonated with me, right? Because it's
Yes.
exactly what it aligns with.